In a world where we're bombarded every day by all manner of wavelengths, frequencies, and molecules, is there anything we can do to avoid being fried in our own bodies? The answer is yes. There's clothing. You can wear it. M.I.A. is here to tell us all about it. I'm James Poulos. Welcome to Zero Hour. Maya's here. She's a Grammy Award-winning rapper, producer, singer, and platinum-selling recording artist. What can't she do? We're going to talk about the clothes. Welcome, M.I.A.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. Texas.
Yes, welcome.
But I don't have my cowboy hat on.
That's all right. But you're wearing something that is even more powerful in some ways than a cowboy hat.
Yes.
Okay, the
this
brand
is a futuristic hat.
Yes.
The brand is called OHMNI.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically to help. It's all Faraday lined.
Mm-hmm.
So it has silver, copper, nickel lining. And it just is protection to help you, deal with the frequencies.
Yeah, what does it keep out?
Basically, it's the EMF protection.
Mm-hmm.
So it's any kind of like high level radiation or frequency that could be harmful. And, a lot of people on the internet debate whether it's harmful,
Sure.
EMF is harmful or not. And this is like a debated, controversial issue. But my thing is, if it was, why wait, 20 years to find out?
Of course.
Where you could just like be protected against it anyway. If you're going to go and buy a cap in the shop at a high street store, you might as well buy one that offers like another layer of acknowledges the space we live in.
Yeah, don't wait until you have a third ear growing out of your head that you then have to cover up with a hat.
Yeah, like they're going to tell you yes in 15 years, or it's the way that, say, like on X, or on any platform, where they say, oh, and the CIA is going to release this document 30 years later, and you're going to find out the truth. You know what I mean? And it's like, we don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
It's just if it's just kind of common sense that the technology usage in our daily life is like increased, know. And as a teenager, when I don't know if I even had an internet router in my house, and cell phones came along, and it was like slowly gadgets got added. But now my own lifestyle as a musician, I'm constantly surrounded by machines, and everything is on, and all the Wi-Fi is on, and everything needs Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So
you can't even make music anymore unless you're logged into the programming app, into the microphone app, into the, you can't even it's not an analog situation.
And this is why for so many people, regardless of what industry they're in or whether they're just sitting around at home, people feel like they have no choice.
Yes.
That it's like, well, this is the world we live in, and I hope it doesn't, totally just radioactively turn me into soup.
Yeah, because even crypto bros, they will need this.
Yeah.
When you're mining for your Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
Just put this on. And so this fabric I'm wearing is jersey, so it feels just like any T-shirt you'd buy from Zara.
And I do. Guilty.
So like it's the same, but it's actually got silver. So it's literally the silver lining to fashion.
So you are head to toe protected.
I am actually... Okay, so this outfit I'm wearing, this is 100% protected. So this is only protection against EMF. So if you wrapped your phone in this... you would still get certain phone calls, like your WhatsApp kind of would still work. So this is not a Faraday. So some people get it mistaken. Whereas the Faraday's in the hat, the Faraday's in the bags.
Oh, you got the bag too.
Yeah, so
Very
like
nice.
This is a Faraday protected thing. So we have a magnetic pocket, and you put your phone in there, it will completely get you off grid, right? So that happens So we do have clothing made out of this Faraday as well on the site. But if you want just comfort and you just want to deal with EMF radiation, which is it coming from, the machines, and that's what you're dealing with, and you want to be online, then you wear this stuff, because this is the jersey, and inside it's silver, and it's antibacterial, anti-EMF, and and also, so my tracksuit bottoms I'm wearing, and you might be like, why do you constantly dress like a 15-year-old teenager?
That's
because,
the fashion, right? That's how we are all supposed to dress.
And also, like, I'm wearing the products that I also made for my son, because, like, he would wear this, and he's in tracksuit bottoms all the time. And if you have a laptop on your lap, so we've lined 50% of this tracksuit bottoms with silver. So just it protects your organs.
Yeah.
But your legs are kind of free. It's not protected. This is normal organic cotton, and this much is protected by silver. So we're kind of more like focused on organs, and giving protection directly to like your heart, reproductive organs, your brain.
We don't know the long-term effects. We certainly don't know the long-term effects on puberty.
Yes, exactly.
Just development of sex organs.
Yeah, and I think that during a time when there's a conversation in America about immigrants coming over, and there's like white genocide, it'd be good to, as an immigrant, to come over and say, look, here's ways to keep having babies.
Yes, everyone should be able to keep having babies.
It's true. So we have like Potency boxer shorts, which is like our most luxury fabric, which is 88% silver. And that's a really strong protection. Fabric is very expensive and luxurious. And you can wrap your phone in that, and it does block and get you off grid. So you can wear your boxers, and at night you can still wrap your phone in it or whatever. Or, it's the same effectiveness as the bags.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And then lingerie for the ladies too.
We're getting into the sexy stuff. So that's why I'm still walking around looking like, a teenager. But eventually we're going to, because it's kind of like clever designs, and we're not a normal brand where we've got a lot of designers working on that right now. It's just me doing it. So I'm getting into the more the fashionable bit of like sexy ladies wear.
Yeah, because I mean, it's even just what you're wearing now. It's not just comfort, although I'm sure it's very comfortable.
It's very comfortable.
Also fashion. Gosh darn it.
It is. It's like it's sort of kind of universal, and I travel a lot. I'm on the planes a lot. So that's really also why it's useful to me, is because, it's only for the last sort of 5 years that we've had complete Wi-Fi on airplanes, accessible Wi-Fi. So if you're on like a 10-hour flight, that's a really important thing for me, that you're protected against that, And also I always choose window seats, because I think that's like the nicest seat.
I think so too.
Yeah, but actually all the wiring runs along the side of the windows. Yes, so I always fall asleep with the head like on the window.
Okay.
And so all of the leads are not under your feet. They're in the side of the walls.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it just makes me feel a bit more like protected against that.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, cyberpunk, whatever that was, I think some people are sort of feeling like the future was supposed to be a lot cooler and a lot more fashionable and be integrated with technology in a way that felt like adventurous and like edgy and fun. And then somehow that was taken away. And what you're offering does seem, to me at least, to bring back a sort of like a more confident aesthetic when it comes to interacting with technology.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because we're not like, oh, technology bad.
Right.
We this is about how to coexist with it, bringing a bit more protection to yourself. And And I think that's okay because it's almost like, where we like aggressively sold healthcare through big pharma. And it's like, it's also protection against that. You want to like, that's why I think Omni clothes are like an investment. It's like you go to the shop and you buy vitamins to put inside your body to fight against something, which we don't know how to measure and how to measure its effectiveness on our health, or effects on our health. And so then you're putting something internally, yet we're not, why not take that extra step and also offer protection on the outside? And it's kind of like a balance. And I think, yeah, it's not that we're shunning technology. We're trying to find out how to coexist, but still keeping yourself and connectable to, the things you want to connect to. And
so you don't have to be Ted Kaczynski in order to make it through.
You don't have to be. And I think I saw that movie. I really liked it. And I think, you don't have to get off grid, and you can actually get off grid in your home with Omni. You can literally take off our, we have like a maternity dress, which is really useful, so you can wear the maternity dress and it helps you protect your fetus. And then you can also wrap your router in it and it completely blocks out all the signals and things. So you can always choose to wear our clothes or dress your technology, and it just offers a break. And that's really what it is. And I think when you're listening to people like Snowden talk about privacy, I think that's also very good for like creativity, and the creative mind, or even the spiritual mind. And I think having a room or a space where you can be yourself and think and have the time to think and not have the anxiety of the world like beamed into your living room every second of the minute, your life. It's kind of nice. It's a nice thought to be like, I have a choice and I can do something about it,
Yeah, even just a temporary experience of existing as God created you, just without any
and if
artificiality.
you can't bring yourself to a countryside, you can always bring that to your city apartment, and that was the idea. And even in the countryside now, like what you were saying about, the concept of being radical and being off the grid, like you still have satellites that are like straight to your tent, or your shed or whatever.
Just encasing the globe and more every day.
Exactly. So we're not going to stop that. Like Elon Musk put like thousands of satellites and, and I think Starlink is great because I've been to very remote places where they have a Starlink and it's very useful to these people in these communities. So I'm not going to, shun that. But at the same time, that that village and that life is going to change.
Yeah, profoundly.
And so, it's just about thinking about ways to buy back a little bit of space, privacy, anonymity.
Well, it's a pretty full line so far, and it's expanding. So talk just a little bit about where this all came from. Did you wake up one morning and say, like, I have to do this? Where did it come from?
I first came across the fabric when I went to visit Julian at the embassy. Somebody had a phone case, and then a friend of mine who's an American artist called Adam Harvey, he made something and he showed it at the New Museum in New York. And so I was aware of this fabric, but
because of Julian Assange, basically.
It was kind of, yes, when I went to visit him, there was a friend of his who I've forgotten the name of, actually. I met him very briefly, but he was thinking about making a phone case.
Yeah.
you know, and he was talking about the fabric. And at the time, it was kind of like a military fabric. You know, it was not widely available, and you couldn't get this stuff just on a normal sort of market. And so at that time, I bought a phone case from my friend Adam's collection, and I had the phone case for a while, but I didn't know to what extent. Like, I thought it's useful if you're a journalist, you know, but I didn't think we needed it in our daily life, you know. But I was like, oh, it's a very useful thing if you're a journalist. That's all I thought. And so I kind of forgot about it for a long time. And then I went to this year, I had some time because I didn't have a visa to get into the US, and my son was in school here. And so I decided, you know, I was in India, and a friend of mine was like, you should have a brand, you know. And I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's what I want to do, because it's
Thanks, friend, for giving me an assignment.
Yeah, and also, like, I didn't want to add to the pollution, you know, and fashion is like the number two polluter in the world after the military-industrial complex.
That's wild.
And so I was kind of like, do I want to, you know, really get into that? And, you know, the problem is, like, I've been around for 20 years doing music, and I never wanted to mass, like, make fashion, or, you know. So I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's like not what I want to do. And then I don't know, this just sort of happened. It's very hard to explain, but it's kind of like a testimony, actually, because I found a YouTube video on technology on a YouTube channel, and it was a pastor, and he did like a prayer service, and he's like, you're going to do something in 90 days that, you know, other people, it would take them, what will I take others 3 years to do, you would do in 30 days. Or, you know, like he was sort of praying this thing. And I was like, And I listened to it, and something happened. And in 90 days, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a brand, and made the logo, flew to China. You know, this is where you get the fabric from at the moment, because it's very rare to get it anywhere else at the moment. And which is another issue.
Right.
That's interesting to talk about, because, you know, they're sort of more hip to this thing because they're producing the fabric.
Yeah, why in the land of freedom are we not able to get basic
Exactly,
protections?
and they're the ones that's known for, like, this sort of Orwellian kind of like social control, credit system controlling world. Yet they do make this fabric there, and it's very exciting as well, because they're making so many versions and varieties, and they're very, like, experimental. So it's not like we make these for, you know, utility fabrics and this is what you're going to get. It's not like every day they're like, oh, we've tried this and we've, like, changed the ratio to, like, cotton to the thing, to the silver, and then we're trying this, and you could get steel. And so it is, like, it's kind of exciting because it's a new area for the production of the fabric as well, even for them. And it's really... I'm really surprised you can't get it in America. Like, they don't have the machines, you know. But the Americans know about it.
Yeah.
Like, they're much more knowledgeable about it than the Chinese, but they don't produce it.
Well, once Americans get wind of something, they usually start wanting it immediately. So I don't know. I think I can see how demand for these kinds of products would just continue to grow, especially as, I mean, 5G is everywhere now already.
That's right. And they're talking about stepping it up to 6G. And, you know, when I was talking about it, when they first installed it, because they didn't happen to install it exactly at the time when we were all locked in, and working from home. So you're in front of your computer like 20 hours a day, and you don't have access to just go outside. Or, you know, they were actually putting rules in England saying you could go to the park for like 30 minutes, but then you got to come back.
Oh yeah, no, I remember going to the beach, and the rule was you could come to the beach, but only if you kept moving, and if you sat down, a little cop would come over and say like, "I'm sorry."
Yes, and I went to the Caribbean island where we weren't allowed to go to the beach at all. And if you went to the beach, the neighbors were allowed to report on you.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, and you get either kicked out.
I mean, Caribbean island is all beach. It's all the beach.
Yeah. And it was so bizarre, you know, to be like, wow, how does that happen? Where you're on a Caribbean island and you're on the island next door to the one that Bill Gates holidays on, okay? But you're on this island and you're looking at Bill Gates on holiday with his children on a boat, whatever. And then you tell the locals that are living on this 5-mile piece of patch of land, who've lived there for like generations, for 1,000 years or whatever, that they cannot go to the beach. And their means of eating every day is fishing or like getting into the sea. And it's their way of doing a lot of normal everyday things. Like, you know, you get into the shower, and during COVID, they're like, we're going to measure how much hot water you're using, you know, because we can see that now. We can like beam into your house, beam into your shower, and look at the tap. Whether you put it on 38 degrees or 40 degrees, and then we're going to count using your phone how long that shower was on, you know, and we're going to regulate this. And all of these ideas were going around. But at the same time, these ideas were being put onto communities in other parts of the world where their lifestyle is totally different. They don't have hot water to begin with. They jump in the sea and like bathe in the morning or whatever, you know, and they couldn't go. And to go to their own sea to bathe or catch fish, they had to get the vaccine. And it was just like the most bizarre thing to live through.
An insane injustice.
Insane.
Do you feel like with what you're doing now, you're part of a larger movement against that kind of insanity?
Well, I think that you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And I think that, you know, God tells you. Like when you're the part of the problem, he'll tell you. And I think when you're part of the solution, he'll tell you. Which is why I can't quite explain how this brand came to be, because it was so fast and it kind of exploded, and I have random ways to understand it. And, you know, and I'm not a fashion designer. It's not what I studied, and I don't have a team. And I own the brand 100%, so it's not like I co-own it with LVMH or, you know, like the establishment owners of other brands. And so, you know, that's another thing, because people will say to me, oh, you need to be on this side, you know, and fight for this thing because you're an immigrant or you're a brown woman, and like, this is the side that's going to take care of you.
Yes.
Yet you come out and you like own this brand 100%, and they don't want to support it. And they don't want to support it because it's a thing that they don't talk about, which is like, what do you mean your health is compromised with everything the way the world is? You know, and it's like some subjects don't go together and marry together, you know. And
total cognitive dissonance.
It is. It's
in the
very
face
confusing.
of evidence everywhere you look about declining sperm count and mental illness and obesity, and it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And I do think that a lot of mental illness issues in the West is, you know, it's like predatory behavior of therapists. You know, they get so rich, keeping people addicted to therapy almost, and keeping you confused. And like on the plane, like I watched the Ted K movie, but I also saw the documentary about John Byers, right? And her whole life, and I don't know if I can talk about it, but it was just the way I interpreted the movies. Like, I love this artist, you know, and I grew up listening to her and Bob Dylan, and she's like a hippie, you know, comes from that.
The ultimate hippie, really.
The ultimate hippie and the ultimate, you know, fighter for justice and civil rights and all of these things. But it was really sad to see her life be like this. The continuation, the narrative in her documentary was her addiction to therapy, and that her therapist always telling her there was something wrong, you know, and it was everything, all the choices she made in life, and everything, and her family, and her sisters, and her parents, and everybody's affected by what the therapist says, and the role of the therapist is so like present in American life, you know, and or
it's almost
or
an
the
expectation
Western.
now. It's like, I won't date you unless you go to therapy, unless you can prove to me that you have a therapist. Like, this is starting to happen.
Yes, and it's not necessary. I mean, like, God is way cheaper.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like, I think it's like you don't have to pay a lot of money, and you know, you have someone to talk to all the time about random things, and I think that's really a really like simple thing that people miss, you know, and
Do you feel hopeful for, spiritually speaking, that there's going to be, or maybe we're at the beginnings of a kind of reawakening spiritually?
I do think that. I think when people are exhausted, you know, that everything they try doesn't work, I think they will just calm down and then rebuild, because basically it's about deconstructing everything you've been taught. And because the knowledge, which is the internet, it was just at your fingertips, and we've only had that the last 20 years, right? So the presence of technology in your life is gone like this in the last 20 years. Sperm count is gone like that in the last 20 years. And then also information has gone like that in the last 20 years. But hate and division's gone like that in the last 20 years. So like when people access knowledge, they're like blasted with so much in every direction possible. And then you inject into it, you need therapy because you're just confused, you're suffering from anxiety, you're looking at people on Instagram, you want to do this, you want to like change your face, you want to change your body, you want to change your mind. Like there's just too much options. It's like walking into a supermarket in America and there's just like rows and rows and rows of choice, but not all of it is good for you, you know? And that's really what it is. It's about saying, look, all of these rows of colors and boxes and packaging and well thought out marketing for years is not making you healthy. And then you have to go to the farmer's market and get a real orange, and it's boring. It's annoying, and you got to peel it yourself.
It's a little bit smaller.
It's smaller. It doesn't look good. It's not shiny. It's not waxed. But like that's the thing. And I think, you know, spirituality is like that right now. Everyone's in the aisle. Everything looks shiny. You know, you got your crystals, you got your tarot cards, you got this, you got that. You've got therapy. You know, you've got science. You've got AI. Like there's many gods. You know, and I think eventually people will get sick of it and tired, and then they will witness, I think, more and more people testifying about real peace through, you know, finding the real God, you know, that works for you. That I always say that. I feel like if something keeps you in therapy and it's not working for you, change your God. You know, it's okay. And I think that's the main message. It's like, even to my family members, my friends, you know, if something doesn't work and you keep doing it again and again and again and again, and you're stuck in some sort of loop or some sort of thought pattern and some sort of belief system, that has time moving, but your life hasn't moved, and you as a person haven't evolved, or your productivity. And productivity is a weird one because you don't want to be overproductive of just garbage. But like if you're not getting somewhere that is like the best version of yourself,
something fruitful,
then change your God, and don't become the person who's adding confusion to the community. And I think a lot of people, it's funny because yesterday I was on a podcast with Candace Owen, and we were talking about the concept of ancestors, and that is like, for the demographic I represent in America, which is POC, which is how it's labeled, and they're like, this is your little space, you could stay in your lane and talk about this. And in that, it's very fashionable to say, my ancestors told me to do this. And that's very trendy right now. And
do the ayahuasca, talk to your ancestors.
Do that whole thing. And I do think that's very dangerous. And, like, it's really important to, because now, like, I understand that, not all your ancestors are great.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't want to tap into
they shouldn't be your
shitty
gods
great
either.
aunt who was like mad or whatever, and let your crazy uncle that was like doing some crazy thing tap
it's
into
attractive
you.
though, because our memories are being degraded and eroded and destroyed. I mean, you look at it's not just the US, it's the UK too. I mean, the Church of England is like dropping church from, there's a real effort to just kind of strip away and make people forget.
Yeah. Okay. So so the ancestral chat in England is like, we're going to get back to our like Viking roots, or our Celtic roots, and we're going to do pagan rituals and get into witchcraft because that's our roots. Like the Bible is not their root. And so that's really interesting because they do that. Like there was a sculpture in the park in London next to me that was of the Haile Selassie, because he was on exile to England for a bit from Ethiopia, and the Queen, the house where he stayed, there was a park next to it, and the Queen made like a basque. And during 2020, when there was all these BLM riots and stuff, and there was like some sort of like revolution uprising going on in Ethiopia, they came to this random park in South London and smashed the basque. Right. It was just the most pointless thing. But that happened and it made them feel good. But a month later, so BLM come and smash this statue of Haile Selassie, and then a month later, the Viking Wiccan sect in Britain came and put this sort of like witchcraft kind of Wiccan sculpture in place.
Wow.
And it says like, this is for our Viking ancestors, And so the concept of like tapping into my ancestor is across the board, not just POCs, but it's across the board. But some of your ancestors were not great. We can't just say all our ancestors were great people. It's not true. Everything throughout time, and we're like, our Earth is like a timely plane. Throughout time, everything was balanced. So there's always good and bad. You might, most likely you had 50% bad ancestors and 50% great ancestors. Let's just be fair. It's not 100% great ancestors.
No.
So when you're like doing these kind of things, trying to tap into or listening to ancestors, I do feel like half of the people now are just saying that because it gives them some sort of comfort, but they're not really thinking it through of how to discern the good and bad and how to make these things apply for the present day, because this is the time we're all alive. Like, this is the time we can change, and this is the time you can affect, and this is the time that kind of needs you. you know, and yeah.
You're of course still very much a musician, so I want to be sure to talk a little bit about music before we go. I was in London around the turn of the century, 1999, and it was just like so explosive with so much music. It's such high quality and like connecting with so many people. And now, Oasis is sort of returning finally, and there's this feeling of like getting a last taste of a moment that has gone. And I just wonder, like, where do you see music going? And do you think music is doing what it needs to be doing for us as human beings right now?
I think music is, it's the same. It's like the responsibility of it. I also lived through that time. Music is healing, and it can change a lot of people's mood or vibe and heal people, and I think it's been hijacked because it became a business. But some people still know the value of music, and good music still exists, and you can also get it from the past. You could still listen to it. A recording is a recording and it exists. But yeah, it's a difficult thing because when you're a musician, it's the fact that you have to put it through the channel of an industry that it gets corrupted, and it gets put into a box, and this is how it's got to go out, this is how it's got to look, and this is what it's got to, this is the image that has to be put with this song, and a girl has to look like this, and she has to do this dance, and da-da-da. And often, like, obviously, it's 50-50 because Satan was the director of music. It is a great tool to get to people because music directly accesses your spirit. So you bypass the mind and your soul and your logic and everything. And
just the way that it's used to sort of tell people how to behave sexually.
Yes.
Is incredible.
So music directly speaks to your spirit, and you directly access the spirit without permission. So when you walk into a shop and you listen to a song, it directly accesses your spirit without permission.
Right.
And so, there's a level of responsibility to practice when you make music, and a level of knowledge you have to have. And we don't, we do get, because culture and the cult of culture, what is cool is never that. What is cool is the Satan's playground version. And if you don't function in that, then you're outside of that, But I don't know, it's a really difficult one. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Even AI, I don't, it's like, it's kind of whatever. I think it's entertaining. It's like having a toy. But if the people who produce the AI or design the AI and the way AI is coded and responds in how it makes the music, then the output is like, the fruit doesn't fall far away from the tree. And if the tree is great, then the fruit will be great. But if the coders of the AI and the programmers of AI, and funny enough, I was talking to a tech person who is, one of the early sort of programmers of Ethereum, and this person did a lot of stuff and also in like governmental spaces and things. And he was saying, Maya, you should be bringing up new artists now. You should be sharing, like you need to design this tech platform where you can help artists who are less known monetize, and share some way to filter down wealth. And to begin with, I'm not a big artist for things I say, but if I was going to bring up new artists, and I was like, what kind of new artists do you think are not getting a platform? And he was like, PP Cocaine. And I was like, who's that? you know, and I was like, wow, she must be really like, really trying hard and not getting through to the mainstream. And when I was like, who is this like weird girl in some village that's never going to get the shine, you know, doesn't dress sexy or whatever. And when I looked her up, like she's basically like Bad Barbie or Cardi B. And she was just like doing the same stuff. And I said, well, what she is the mainstream.
Yeah.
Like Cardi B is already shooting videos naked. So what about this girl that is not mainstream? Like you have Ice Spice that's carbon copy of this girl.
Yeah.
So even when you have these techies who have the power and control and are advising governments to program AI and program the technological future of our society, even they think the avant-garde is exactly the same as the mainstream. And all they want is a sexy female every time that's very, very skirting very close to porn every time. So it's not like there's some techie that's like thinking true real music is like this flute playing girl on the hills of Kazakhstan. It's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So I fell out of kind of, you know, thinking that was the answer and the AI was going to be the answer to create this new generation of musicians who are more knowing. But yeah, I think it is an interesting space. I'm taking time out, which is why I'm doing a brand and put my thinking cap on and think about the future of music. And I think, you know, even taking realities of like Kanye West and his struggles with it is very like interesting. You know, he's trying to fit into this structure that is the existing structure.
Yeah, very difficult.
And it's very difficult. And then you've got the new structure, which is the AI structure and the sort of like technology structure, but it still has, you know, nerdy guys like Mark Zuckerberg wanting to see porn, you know, and we've had 10 years of that. And whether the new generation of tech bros are going to break out of that or keep that going, you know, it's like merging OnlyFans with the music industry is where we're at in tech.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether women will take over and sort of dictate that, or, you know, it's like at the moment, it's also a Satan tool. You know?
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, that's what I do most of the time on this show is just push to remember the human, remember that we're human beings, keep things human through spirituality and technology and art and fashion, and you are doing it all. So thank you for being a visionary, and I'm very excited to see what's next. M.I.A.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. So that's all the time we got. Till next time around, I am James Poulos. This is 0 Hour, and may God have mercy on us all.